Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of Boston Borough Council's Planning Committee. My name is Councillor David Middleton. I am chairman of this committee, and Councillor David Scoot is my vice chairman. Before we move to the agenda, I would invite our officers supporting this meeting to introduce themselves.
Lisa Davis, legal advisor to the committee.
Bill Norman, AD for planning.
Abby Marwood, Deputy Development Manager for Planning.
Lewis Humphreys, I'm Principal Planning Officer.
Yeah, thank you. Moving on to our housekeeping rules. Restroom facilities are available on this floor for the ladies and halfway down the main stairwell for gentlemen. In the event of a fire alarm sounding, officers will escort everyone to the nearest safety point in the rear car park. Please ensure when you are addressing this meeting that you do so through the microphone system at all times. Members of the public are free to leave the meeting at any time, and our planning support officers will escort you downstairs. And finally, be advised that abuse or intimidation of any kind will not be tolerated. Anyone who is deemed to breach this requirement will be warned and asked to refrain, and if their behaviour persists, they will be asked to leave the meeting. So we will now move on to part one of the agenda and address the preliminary items. To receive apologies for absence and notification of any substitutions.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies from Councillor Sarah Sharp with Councillor Helen Staples substituting, and further apologies from Councillor Dale Broughton with no substitute member.
Right. So now to sign the minutes of the last meeting held on 8th of October 2024. Do I have a committee's agreement to sign these?
Agreed.
Is it the 5th? When do we do Andorian then? To leave or? Okay. Before we move to individual declarations of interest in respect of any item on this agenda, I will ask Lisa to give the standing declarations.
Thank you, Chairman. For public information, I'll confirm that standing declarations of interest will be recorded within the minutes for this meeting, and for all members of this committee who are also members of Lincolnshire County Council, South East Lincolnshire Joint Strategic Planning Committee, and representatives of the internal drainage boards.
Thank you. Does any member of this committee have any further declaration of interest to make in respect of any item on this agenda? No. Oh.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, the application before you today is part of my portfolio, so I believe I'm conflicted, so I will not take any part in the discussion, and I'll leave the room. Thank you.
So next, to receive any written questions from members of the public.
There are none, Chairman.
So that concludes the preliminary items, and we will now move into part two of the agenda and receive the reports tabled. Our only item of business today is planning application B240377 on page 7 of the agenda, and will be presented by our senior planning officer, Mr. Lewis Humphreys. So over to you, Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application for the redevelopment of existing landscaping and open space to provide some new public realm works. It's including some new artwork, the relocation of some existing artwork, and the creation of some new external social spaces. This is an application made by Boston Borough Council, so it's been referred to committee by the Assistant Director rather than any call-in. So just a reminder that we are here as local planning authority, not as members of any other committee. So we're only here to consider the planning merits of the case. This is the site location plan. The site edged in blue is part of the wider site. This is the first phase of the P21 regeneration scheme. So the site extends from the Botolph Bridge over on the east side over the River Witham, across to the Len Medlock Centre. Just to give a bit of wider context, we've got the bus station, we've got the municipal buildings that we're in just down here, an existing NHS centre up here, Crown House, and this building here is B&M and its associated car park here. And here's just this is the red line shows the area that's the subject of this application, and just gives the existing context. Proposals are, as I say, primarily down to landscaping and new footways. You can see some slight revisions to the layout and the footpath that runs through here, some new landscaping and tree planting down here. Some slightly more substantial revisions at the other side. The existing coach park will be removed. There's the installation of a new piece of artwork just in front of the Len Medlock Centre here. There's an informal play area here, and some more seating and social spaces over here. And there'll be a new entranceway off Rosegarth Street here. Does retain some of the coach parking. There are 2 proposed coach parking bays here, and this area here is a drop-off bay for the Len Medlock Centre. So just the same plan, but with the landscaping highlighted, just to show you where the planting elements will be. And I'll just pause briefly here just to give you a run through of the consultations that we've received and the main planning issues before I move on to site photos and show you the site and the visualizations we've got, show you the site itself. So there are 4 consultation comments that I think are worth highlighting. First is from Environmental Health, who haven't raised any particular issues but have identified the possibility that there might be some contaminated land on site that we might not be aware of. They have recommended conditions to deal with this, just requiring the pausing of works if any contamination is required, which is fairly typical. They have also recommended, given the absence of any assessments, that for where there are landscaped works, that the top 300 mils of topsoil are clean soil and brought on. You can see that reflected in the conditions that are attached at the end of the agenda. The ecologist has raised no issues regarding mandatory biodiversity net gain. So just a quick reminder for members, mandatory biodiversity net gain is now in force. Basically requires most planning applications. There are some exemptions to provide a 10% uplift in habitats. We've had a baseline assessment for this, and an indicative proposal show that this scheme that's before us now will achieve 10%. Our ecologist hasn't raised any concerns with the baseline, which is all we need to consider for this assessment, for this proposal. The 10% appears to be achievable. He's flagged a slight concern regarding the species mix that's on site, but not that would impact that should impact determination of this, and I don't think is a particular issue in this case. And he has raised a slight concern regarding the need for a buffer to accommodate if the 10% is not achieved over the 30-year period. But again, this application meets the 10% that we'd need to anyway. The net gain is a conditioned matter anyway. It has to go through a pre-commencement condition. They have to submit extra information. That's an approach that's set out in the legislation, as included in the conditions as well. We've had some comments from archaeology, raising some concerns or the potential for archaeological works on the site, archaeological features of interest on the site. There is a condition recommended in the the agenda that I'll discuss later. But I think we are going to look at just tweaking that following further advice from our archaeological advisor since the report was prepared. But again, this is a fairly typical matter that can be easily resolved through conditions. And lastly, we've had some indicative comments from Highways. They'd raised the possibility of requesting a Section 106 contribution for an amendment to the traffic regulation order that controls the double yellow lines in that area, but we've not actually received a formal request for a contribution. The proposals do result in a reduction in the number of coach parking bays that are available, but we've had a transport assessment submitted with the application that indicates that actually there's very low usage of those bays. I think it averages out at about 3 a week, and so the 2 bays that are retained should be sufficient. Just very briefly, principle of this development is acceptable. It accords with policy 9, which looks at visitor attractions and tourism development, and with policy 25 regarding the vitality and viability of the town centre. There's not considered to be any conflict with the setting of any nearby listed buildings or the conservation area, which starts just over the other side of the River Witham. In terms of visual impact, the only feature that will have any particular impact in a wider area is the proposed artwork, which is in front of you now. This is an indicative design. The final design, as I understand it, is still being is still underway. There's a condition to reflect that in the conditions table at the end, and we have included some visuals as well. I'll just put before you so you can see the scheme as it's intended here. So top-down view with the bridge on the east side and the lead Medlock Centre here. The artwork is here, and here you've got the new entranceway and the seating, the proposed play area and drainage features, again with the artwork, and at a street level you can see the stump in the background here. Visuals of the artwork itself, and then at the other end you've got the bridge moving across. This footpath follows roughly the same line as the existing one, but with some new landscaped areas on either side. You can see that some of the existing artwork here is retained either in situ as this one is, or moved from elsewhere within the site. And just a view looking from the bridge over towards the other side. Just briefly run you through some photos of the site as it is at the minute. So here you've got the Len Medlock Centre. There are some buses that appear to be from the bus station using the coach parking at the minute. As far as we're aware, they aren't using the pay and display feature that was used to inform the traffic assessment. But notwithstanding that, there are bays within the bus station for buses to lay over. So we don't think that should have an impact on the consideration regarding highway matters here. Looking the other way, you can see this is Crown House in the background, and the stump. This artwork will be relocated elsewhere within the site. Again, existing parking bays. Just looking along this footpath that will be one of the main features. You've got currently B&M here and Crown House. A lot of the trees here, I believe it to be retained, but you'll see some new landscaping along here. And looking the other way, car park for B&M, the bus station beyond it. And just from the river looking down, again, the existing B&M site, and these 2 areas here, these 2 grassed areas in the foreground, are currently the subject of a community archaeology dig. I think that's still ongoing this week. It's definitely been going on last week or the week before. And then this is the opposite corner of that. So your officers are recommending approval on this application, subject to the conditions that are listed in there. As I mentioned earlier, there's a slight update regarding the archaeology condition. I'm going to propose that we're proposing that the condition that's currently in there relating to archaeology, apologies, I don't have the condition number to hand, is to be deleted, and instead we would add a pre-commencement condition requiring a written scheme of investigation that covers the whole site. There has been some archaeological work, as I say. There's a desk-based assessment submitted that's available on the website supporting this application, and there has been some work specifically done for the community archaeology project, but that doesn't cover the wider site. So this written scheme of investigation would just cover the site as a whole. It might be that the conclusion from that is that no additional works are required, but in the event that they are, that would cover trial trenching or a watching brief as is considered to be appropriate. And lastly, we would just include some additional informative notes in relating to the highways comments that we've received, just to cover any outstanding issues that might arise from that. And that's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Lewis. We do have a speaker on this application. This is the agent for the application, Mr. Lewis Ashford. Would you like to come forward, please, and come to the table? And once you've finished your presentation, if you would just remain in case anybody has any questions.
Good morning, all. My name is Louis Ashford from Ares Landscape Architect, acting as agent and also designer of the scheme. So as a company, we have been involved since inception of developing this as a master plan. It is intended to be the gateway.
Can you just get a little bit nearer to your microphone?
How about now?
Is that better?
Sorry. It's intended to be the gateway to the historic town of Boston from the coach, the coach centre and the train station to the west. As an arrival point, you enter the site, you're greeted into a new public realm space. We have consulted with Len Medlock. We have taken in consideration their needs of their specific users. So we have an isolated drop-off bay for users to get into the site without being distracted by the new public realm. As you do enter the new public realm, you're greeted with the new artwork as you have seen on the images. It's intended that this is going to be the new meeting place, a point of arrival, a gateway, a node into the town centre. There is a sustainable urban drainage feature. This is to accommodate for rainfall to be dealt with within the site. There is natural play equipment such as stepping stones within that SUDS feature and bridges across it to make it permeable for pedestrians. It opens up into a greener space. We have, as Lewis has mentioned, added a lot of tree planting to accommodate that BNG, that net gain that's required due to the current legislation. As you wrap around from that new public realm space, we have improved that link from the coach stop all the way to St Botolph's Bridge, opening it up, making it a safer environment, making it a key walkway through. All new materials, looking at natural stone and bound gravel where appropriate. There's a clear hierarchy of pedestrian footways. There are benches and seating opportunities designed in compliance with Part M, and these have been located so that you're not under trees, you're not hidden away. As you move up into Crown House, we open up the landing of St Botolph's Bridge. We're retaining the sandstone paving there, but paving up to it, retaining all cycle spaces that are there currently. As Lewis has mentioned, we have relocated the buoys across the site. The finish of those is yet to be determined following further consultation with the local arts trust. These have been located and raised onto plinths. Further consultation with Boston in Bloom. So we have an associated planting area around them to reflect their design ethos of creating waves around the bottom of the buoys. These have been located, and we will be relocated at certain points to create a rhythm of public art from St Botolph's Bridge down to the coach centre. There are soft landscape spaces. These again have been designed to improve the biodiversity. We take on board the comments from the ecology officer, and we'll be improving the planting in coordination with them. We will be improving the setting to Crown House, and the public realm will be a catalyst for any future development should it happen within the spaces. And that has also been a key consideration when designing those spaces. It's designing for the future. It's designing for the needs of further development. In terms of construction and maintenance, the scheme will be maintained under contract for the first 12 months, and maintenance will be adopted by the local authority. I don't think I need to go on any further. That's a full rendition of the scheme. If you've got any questions, please.
Thank you for that. Any members wish to ask Mr Ashford anything? Councillor Pierpoint.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm interested to know what the wave's made out of and how sustainable it is, and how is it going to be maintained, because I can see people swinging on that and doing all sorts of strange things, and eventually it won't be a wave, it'll be all bent and curled or smashed to bits or what, I don't know. I'm very conscious of the fact that this is a very important scheme, and also, you know, the materials you talked about, natural stone. What about the wave? What's that going to be made of, and is it going to be sustainable?
So the wave is intended to be made from stainless steel. Now, we are developing it further as we move along. We have a structural engineer and a manufacturer on board. The further details will come out in detailed design. We will take on board any regulations in terms of the height, and we do hear that it can be potential for antisocial use. So the structural engineer, following consultation, has had a look at it. It'll be designed to withstand human intervention, shall we call it? And yes, it will be designed in order to withstand any robustness. The sustainability factor, it will be made from steel, which is more sustainable than concrete. It has a longer lifespan than timber. We've taken design keys from other such structures across the UK that have been in for a while now and have been robust. And that's the manufacturer that we'll be consulting with.
Can I just ask one more question? You talked about the landscaping areas and you talked about the grass areas. Are the grass areas going to be for people to walk across, or they're going to have little fences around them? I mean, how are we going to maintain the grass areas? Is it just a free-for-all for walking shortcuts somewhere, or is the grass area there for to be kept in a well-maintained condition? How is that going to be set up?
So the grassed areas are permeable for pedestrians. You can walk across it, you can sit on it. They won't be fenced off because we want an inclusive environment.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. I've heard no mention about the Merchant Seamen's Memorial. You mentioned buoys. What are you going to do with the Merchant Seamen's Memorial?
Apologies for that. I must have missed that. That will be relocated adjacent to Crown House, and it will be a part of the rhythm of artwork that takes you through the scheme. Yes, the stone memorial will be moved to a more prominent location, not hidden away as it currently is, and part of that arts trail.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you very much for your presentation so far. I'm working on the assumption that the building, currently the B&M store, is going to be demolished. And what about the site, the concrete and all that lot that will be underneath when that building's got rid of? Is it? Well, could you just explain what's going to happen to that little bit of land, please?
So part of the B&M site sits within this planning application. The building will be removed prior to the scheme being constructed. The current B&M site will be hoarded off. The land within this application will be, sorry, the building will be removed. The site will be hoarded off. The small section that was within our application site will be treated, and new paths and soft landscape will be introduced. I'll focus on this application rather than the application of B&M, but the section that sits within our site will be will have the correct build-ups for the uses that we're proposing. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry.
No, doesn't.
Not really, because I want to know. I mean, you're demolishing the whole building, but then you only say, well, half of it's in your area and half isn't. So we can't just ignore the rest of it, but I can't see it specified in here.
There's a small section within the planning application. It's not quite half, apologies. There is a wider master plan to deal with the B&M site. It is a cumulative impact.
Can I just come in here? I'll invite the officers perhaps to just comment on this and give you a better answer there, Councillor Austin.
I suppose in simple terms, the demolition or anything to do with the B&M building will be a separate application ultimately. So that will come forward on its own merits in due course. Evidently, this, as has been said, in part there is an overlap, but the broader issue of the future of that building will be dealt with through a separate application in due course.
Okay, I don't think there's anything I can say about that then. Thank you.
Councillor Welbury.
Thank you for your report. Timescales. Just give me a brief update on how you see this progressing with timescales.
So we are currently undertaking a stage 4 design process that will be submitted to the local authority and the contractor. Once in contract, it is intended to start construction next year, and it will take 18 months to 2 years potentially.
Yeah, I was just wondering then, at the moment, Crown House features quite predominantly in this scheme. At the moment, it's derelict, there's no occupant there, and there doesn't look like there's going to be one. In the event that it's not, there's nobody in there in 18 months' time, have you got any contingency plans to actually front the facade of that building? Because it would impact on your scheme, such as vinyls or such as there is in Reboss, with the lovely pictures of Boston. So is there a contingency in there for something like that, just in case there is no occupant?
So the scheme has been designed to accommodate the ultimate retention of that scheme. However, that scheme will be part of a separate planning application. If the building is retained, that scheme, that major route from east to west still functions as a pedestrian route. But again, the Crown House scheme will be part of a separate application.
Sorry, just one more thing. I work quite closely with the buskers in Boston. I run a busking festival and we've got various other initiatives. Will there be places within the garden for the buskers to actually perform? Are there any performance related areas in there?
So to the east of Crown House, where it opens up, there is the opportunity for event space, pop-up markets for buskers events. There will be power to those areas, and it is intended for public use and such events.
Ah, lovely. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Councillor Pierpoint.
Thank you, Chairman. In your opening speech, you talked about a safer environment. Can you explain to me how it's going to be much more safe than it is currently?
By activating these spaces, by creating a public realm, you introduce more natural surveillance. You introduce different activities that don't happen there currently. The footpaths have been widened. The existing trees that are considered to be dead, dying and diseased have been removed to open up that pedestrian walkway and to increase the visibility and the linear walk from east to west. Again, through improved use, through more people using this, by activating the spaces again with public markets and pop-up markets, it opens up the opportunity for a safer space.
What about in the evening time? Is it going to be lit up, nice and bright with lots of lighting?
There is a proposed lighting scheme. Lighting will be improved and CCTV is introduced.
Thank you, Mr. Ashford. It would seem that you've exhausted the members' questions. So if you could
I thought you
take
got
your
off
seats,
lightly.
please. Thank you. So, Lewis, do you wish to make any comments on what you've just heard?
I don't think so, Chair. There were a couple of comments there regarding future applications that might come forward, but this scheme it's just the application that's before us. I appreciate that there might be some, as Phil said, some demolition needed to facilitate parts of this scheme, but it's not specifically included within this application. So effectively all we're considering here is what's on the site plan in front of you.
Okay, thank you for that. Well, the floor's open to anybody who wants to have some deliberation. Councillor Woodley.
Thank you, Chairman. I've really got no objections to the scheme as such, but I am concerned about section 8.15 and condition 7. That's on page 15. I mean, it's about Len Medlock Centre, and it says, I can paraphrase part of it. It says, and the proposals seek to improve pedestrian access and accessibility rather than meet the needs of this or any other building within or adjoining the site. Now, a lot of people use Len Medlock Centre. It's a very important building. I am concerned about access and access for deliveries. I looked at condition 7 on page 18, and it says, notwithstanding the submitted details, that's page 18, yeah, prior to any works affecting the highway, the final design of footways and parking bays to serve the Len Medlock Centre and the coach parking shall be submitted to and approved in writing by the local planning authority, and the development shall proceed in accordance with approved details. I'm not quite sure really what the access is to this building. A lot of people use the building. They do have deliveries to it. How a vehicle is going to be able to get to the front, and particularly if you're bringing disabled people to that site, how will they get to the site? So I'm concerned about that. I'll tell you what's one what's the word for it? Well, my wife uses the building. She is involved with the one of the local newspapers there, and she has to go there. I deliver to the building. What's the situation? What's the access? When it says in here, rather than meet the needs of this or any other building, I worry about that, because people who use the building and who people deliver to the building, are they going to be disadvantaged by the way this site has been designed?
Shall we ask one of the officers
Let's
to
do that. Yes, it's.
complete it?
Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you.
So there is an existing public car park here. George Street car park is here. So the building is served, and my understanding is that there is disabled parking round the back of Len Medlock already. There is no existing parking for Len Medlock within the layout. There is the coach parking, and there is a deliveries only bay in front that is retained here. So there is a drop-off bay, there is a deliveries bay at the front here. Yes, it's marginally further away, but I don't think my intent in the report was to indicate that there's no need to provide parking to serve this building because it's a town centre building in a location that is well served by other public car parks, and there is no existing car parking for that within the red line.
So have we removed any parking assets from what it is now to what it's going to be?
Not in terms of
18 months?
not in terms of accessing the Medlock Centre, no.
Would you like to come back?
I don't think that's acceptable. I think it's a very arrogant statement to say that, oh, there's parking somewhere else on the side of St George's or whatever. People who use that building may not have the means to be able to walk to the building in the same way that everybody else does. So I think that area is a matter of concern. I think it's a matter of concern. I think just to dismiss it, well, some parking somewhere else in the town, it's fine. No, I don't like that. The rest of the site, I've no objection to. I'm not going to vote against this. There's no material objections, but I do think that we ought to be concerned about the people who use the Len Medlock Centre because it's designed for people who are not necessarily, fully able. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Chairman. Although I'm fine with the principle of this application, and the last thing I ever want to see is buses, people sitting on buses for hours on end. But there's so much, I know it's only outline really, but it's outline with some awfully big holes in it. I think it's probably what Councillor Woodliff was indicating, things that, well, we really don't know what's going to be happening there. It's sort of, from my mind, almost too incomplete an application for me to be absolutely confident with it, but I like the principle. You'll see, this is the difficulty. And I suppose, is that what we are in fact developing? Considering just that principle? Or ought we to be going deeper into details? Thank you.
Would you like to come back, officers? Yeah.
Yes, it's not outline planning permission. It's a full planning permission, but it is only for the development within the red line here for these existing landscaping sites. I appreciate that there is a wider master plan for the P21 development as a whole that includes some redevelopment of Crown House and includes the redevelopment of B&M. Those are not applications that are before us, and as planning authority, this application is what we're considering. And in the event that those other two schemes come forwards, there shouldn't be any reason why this couldn't be implemented. As far as missing details, there are conditions that will relate to the final design of the artwork, although there's an indicative design that I've shown previously. I haven't included detailed plans of all the landscaping in this presentation, although they have been submitted. But we know what they intend to plant and where. We know where the play areas were going to be. That'll be along here. The same with the drainage features. There is a condition that relates to final design of the parking bays that are at the front. That's purely there because they are within the highway. It's to make sure that when the scheme goes through the 278 agreement with the highway authority, that if there are any amendments there that arise as a result of that, we can ensure the planning application marries up to it. Just bear with me 2 seconds while I just have a quick look at other conditions. But I do believe, as I say, other than archaeology, as we've discussed, maintenance for landscaping, the rest of it is is as submitted. As I said, landscaping and drainage are as submitted. Is there a specific concern that you don't believe has been addressed through for the application as it is in here? Because it might be something that we could look at additional conditions for.
Can I come back? Thank you. It's, well, for instance, like we're demolishing the B&M building, but only half of that really is in the site. So we need, it would be helpful to know what would be in, what's envisaged for the, you know, as part of the master plan, if you like, for the rest of that little bit. I would personally be thrilled to get rid of all those people sitting on buses for hours on end, because that's not what this area's for. But it's just, in my mind, it's just too, it's not sufficiently complete for me to be, I've nothing to object to, but I would just like more information. Okay.
Councillor Staples.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that the application is what we have before us today, but I do actually understand where Councillor Austin is coming from. I would like to see a little bit more of a vision for the whole area brought before us, because to my mind, this is going to be rather beautiful, and then we're going to be let down by the existing areas. However, we are where we are. The artwork, I'm concerned for the safety of the artwork, or the safety of people if they were to climb on it or whatever. So I would like to know a little bit more about that, actually. And the Len Medlock drop-off. Len Medlock Centre is widely used. It's used by a group called Your Day, Your Say for people with learning difficulties. And it's necessary for their carers, their relatives or whatever to be able to drop those people off as close to the Len Medlock Centre as possible for the safety of those clients. So I would hope that that can still happen, that they can actually drive up, be met by the people from Your Day, Your Say, and dropped off directly outside rather than use the public car park. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm actually very au fait with this, and I'm quite clear what everybody said, and I'm quite happy with the scheme. The other bits outside of this is not here for today for discussion. It's nothing to do with this application. I'm quite clear what the gentleman said over there, what our officers have said. I think we're going into something too deep and too rigid here. The scheme to me is what we need. My only concern is making sure that that scheme is sustainable and is well looked after when it's in operation, because my concern is the investment that's going into this scheme is a lot of money, and I want to make sure that within 10 years time it's still in good nick and it's still working as it should be. But otherwise, I'm happy with the scheme, happy to propose the scheme, and as far as I'm concerned, I think we're talking out of turn here with other things that aren't in this application. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Yeah. Very emotive subject. We're here for planning, and a lot of the subjects that have been discussed aren't for this particular planning application. But any more? Oh, Councillor Bedford.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Obviously, I'm sorry that it's not a whole scheme as such, but what's in front of us on planning grounds, we really haven't got any reasons to refuse it. It does also spring a question to me, but agenda item 5 at full council on Monday night, when it speaks about sites that probably aren't sustainable without support, I suspect now that the B&M site could be that site. But that's jumping to conclusions. But I'm happy to second it as it stands, what's in front of us now.
Councillor Woodliff.
Thank you, Chairman. I feel it's unfortunate I won't be able to support the proposal, really. It's very disappointing. I've got no material objections to any of this. It's just the access to the Len Medlock Centre. I feel really that's just not good enough. And that's a pity, really, because the rest of it's okay. I've got no problem with the rest of it. I can't think of a material objection to this, but I will have to abstain, I think, when it comes to the vote, because I can't accept the proposals for the Len Medlock Centre. Just not good enough. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Officers, any comment? No, you're happy? Okay, well, I think. Oh,
just get clarified. Can you just tell us again that there's going to be no difference to the Len Medlock Centre in this scheme, so that in my mind I'm clear, because I hear what Councillor Woodliff says, but I'm sure if the scheme is not going to have any difference on what we've got currently, I can't see an issue. Can you just clarify that once more for all in this room? Are there going to be any changes to Len Medlock Centre for people getting access to when this scheme is implemented? Yes or no?
So I'll just go back to my site photos. As you can see, that there is a car there using it as a drop-off bay. There is a yellow marked deliveries and drop-off bay that will be relocated to approximately here, where this existing access is. All of this will be closed up and won't be available to vehicles anymore. The artwork will be here. There won't be any. I'm not going to say it's not further away, because obviously it is, but it would still provide, I believe, two bays there for drop-offs. At the minute, this is not particularly delineated, except for this bay here. And as I said, I believe the disabled parking is just around the back of the building in the public car park.
So there is a change to the scheme then, where disabled people are going to have to get further to the entrance from where they are currently today. That's what you're saying. Right, that's what we need to know. Thank you.
Okay, have any further comments? Well, with that then, we've got a proposer and we have a seconder. So then all those in favour? Against? And one abstention, have we? No, that's fine. Okay, so thank you for that, everybody. Just the last thing is that our next meeting should be on December the 3rd, will be our last one for this year. Thank you very much, everybody.